After leaving his house riding a bicycle, a man named John arrives at his workplace where he's a telemarketer. As he struggles to talk to a customer on the phone, his boss, Mr. Tudor, tells him he needs to do better because his output has been really low. John promises to work harder and then gets back to work. Following a failed interview, John's wife, Alice, returns home and soon has to deal with their landlord and ex-high school classmate Arnie, who is there to collect his rent. Even though she argues that the rent is not due, Alice eventually gives him a check and asks him to leave. Just as he's leaving, John returns home, and Arnie can't help but make fun of him for riding a bicycle. That night, while calculating how much they have left, Alice sees that they have no money and tells John they need to do something about it. They, however, soon leave for a party hosted by one of their rich and proud friends, Peyton. There, they also catch up with their best friends, Louise and Chuck. The next morning, John and Alice realize they don't have any food at home and decide to go shopping with the little cash they still have. While they're on their way, Alice tells John about her failed interview, and he continues to encourage her to keep trying. Suddenly, their car gets hit by a truck, but nothing happens to them, and they're unhurt. The cops soon arrive at the scene, and while John is giving them the details of what had just happened, Alice sees an old lady with a brass teapot entering an antique store. The teapot looks very beautiful, and Alice can't help but leave the accident scene to check the store. As she enters, she sees the old lady drop the teapot on a table in her room, and just before she comes back out, Alice pretends like she's there to buy something. John soon comes in and asks Alice what she's doing in the store. She tells him she wants to buy some antiques, and he looks confused because he knows they have no money. Shortly after, the old lady gets distracted, and Alice takes advantage of this to enter her room to steal the teapot. After picking it up, she runs out of the store and asks John to speed off. John is confused at first, but after a while, Alice shows him the teapot. He tells her she shouldn't have stolen the teapot, but Alice convinces him that she was moved to take it because of how beautiful it looked. The next day, while John is at work, Alice starts making calls to different companies to see if there are any open roles. As she's doing it, she's also straightening her hair. She soon gets distracted and hurts herself in the process. Suddenly, the teapot makes a sound, and as Alice opens it, she sees some $100 bills inside. As she's shocked at what happened, she realizes it was because she hurt herself. She hurts herself again, and surprisingly, the teapot produces yet another set of dollar bills. As she counts the money and sees that it's quite a lot, Alice realizes she can make a lot of money, so she continues doing things to hurt herself. Elsewhere, John is fired from his job by Mr. Tudor, who says he's not a good salesman. John is unhappy with this and heads home only to find everywhere scattered. He immediately looks for Alice and finally sees her in their room looking bruised. John asks her what happened, but Alice says she's fine and has never felt better in years. Suddenly, she realizes that John should be at work and asks why he's home early. John explains that he was fired, and just as she consoles him, she presents the teapot to him. John doesn't understand this, but Alice says it will be their ticket to riches. She punches him in the face, and just as he's wondering what he did to deserve it, she shows him that the teapot produces money for every time they hurt themselves. John doesn't believe this at first, but after Alice hits him again, he sees that it's real. With this, they continue hurting each other until they get tired. Just then, John mentions that he believes things like that don't always end well, and they should return it. Alice convinces him not to do that, pointing out that they can make a lot of money by just hitting themselves, and John finally agrees. However, Alice wakes up in the morning to see that John is nowhere to be found, and the teapot is also missing. She sees a note from John saying things would have ended badly, and she shouts angrily. John takes the teapot back to the old lady's antique store, but it is now closed, and no one is there. From there, he decides to showcase it at an antique roadshow, where the host talks about how nice the teapot looks, but doesn't know anything about its origin. As he continues talking, a man named Dr. Ling is tuned in to the show from his house. Immediately, he sees the teapot. Dr. Ling looks shocked and starts making plans to travel to meet John. John returns home with the teapot, and together, he and Alice agree to use it to make some money. They also promise to stop whenever it feels like it's getting out of control. After that, they start hurting themselves in different ways. Later that day, they decide to hide the money they'd made in the bathroom, with John saying they can't take it to the bank, as it would arouse suspicion. Alice agrees with this, and John also tells her they've made almost $200,000 from the teapot. The next day, John and Alice visit Alice's mother, Trudy. Alice's sister Mary and her husband Joe are also with their kids at the house. Everything seems to go well until Trudy calls out John's sudden source of wealth. However, he and Alice defend it as a reward for an investment they made in the past. The next day, Alice finishes up with some calculations and tells John that they're now officially out of debt. As they start thinking of new ways to spend their money, someone knocks on their door. Alice immediately hides the teapot while John goes to open the door and sees two brothers, Gilad and Yoel, who immediately get aggressive and start beating him up. The brothers say they're there for the teapot. They saw him showcase at the Antique Roadshow on TV. They say the teapot belongs to their grandmother, who happens to be the old lady from the store. They also tell Alice and John that their grandmother died shortly after they stole the teapot, and that was all she talked about till she died. As they continue to beat up John, Alice says they already sold the teapot. Since the teapot has already produced a lot of money due to John's pains, Alice sneakily takes some of the money and hands it to the men, saying it's all they got from the sale. The brothers then leave, after which John says they need to learn more about the teapot. That day, they head over to a library and check several books that have information about the teapot. From the books, they learn that the teapot has been around for many years and usually comes with grave consequences. Alice also sees a page with pictures of how bad things could get, but she tears it out and puts it in her bag without letting John know. John, however, tells Alice they must let go of the teapot because everything they've learned about it points to a dangerous end for them. Alice doesn't believe it's a problem, and she tells John they'll stop before things get out of hand. The next day, Alice and John start buying expensive things. They also change their house and invite their friends over for a party. Peyton expresses her shock at seeing Alice buy a house in the same luxurious estate she lives. As they talk about it, Louise shows up and congratulates Alice, saying she must have gotten her dream job to be able to afford everything she and John now have. A while later, Dr. Ling arrives at their house, and after John answers the door, he asks for the teapot, saying he's part of an organization in China that is interested in teapots. Alice joins John as they answer Dr. Ling, and after a while of discussing with each other, they decide to tell him that they've given the teapot away. Dr. Ling tells them they need to let go of it because they're in grave danger, but Alice gets angry and slams the door on him. That night, when they're alone, Alice starts hitting John so that the teapot can produce some money. Arnie sees this from the window and decides to knock on their door. Before they can let him in, Arnie barges in and asks the couple why they're hitting each other and laughing about it. When they don't have an answer, he says he also needs to know how both of them made it so big in such a short time. As Alice and John think of the best way to answer this, Arnie snatches the teapot and runs out of the house. After the couple follow him, Arnie gets into his truck and says he doesn't understand why they're so worried about an ordinary teapot. Seeing as they care so much for it, he throws it to the ground and drives his car to hit the teapot before heading away. Alice and John immediately run to check the teapot, but it looks perfect and doesn't even have a scratch. Both of them are amazed by this, and they decide they must find Dr. Ling to hear what he has to say. They're able to track Dr. Ling and bring the teapot with them. He starts talking about how the teapot has been around for many centuries, and he and his organization have been looking for it. He mentions that if the teapot senses anger or evil in either of them, it will draw it out and lead to bad consequences. Dr. Ling also tells them that the people who have had the teapot in the past have never survived because it always takes control. Because of this, he asks them to give him the teapot so he can get rid of it. But Alice leaves and also tells John that they're good people and things will never get out of hand. John agrees, and from there, they head home. Days later, Alice and John hear someone breaking into the house. As they check to see who it is, they realize that Gilad and Yoel are back. Alice asks John to confront them, and just as the brothers see him pick up a lamp, they laugh at him. Not long after, Alice comes out with the teapot, but the brothers don't look surprised to see it. John realizes they knew it was with them all along, but didn't say anything. The brothers say it wouldn't have mattered if they warned them about it, and they also didn't mind because they wanted Alice and John to make enough money so they could take it as their inheritance. John is shocked to see that the brothers don't want the teapot. They tell him it's very dangerous and also important to know when to let go of it. They also mention that their grandmother had failed to let go of it soon enough, and it made her miserable. As they're about to leave, Alice suddenly gets angry and runs toward them to get back her money. The brothers don't give up, and they're able to knock her out before leaving. The next day, Alice complains about how all the money they've saved is gone. The teapot also doesn't pay them as much as it used to, and this gets them worried that they need to do something big. That night, John goes to a club to pick a fight so that they can make some money. He gets beaten up badly in the process, and by morning, Dr. Ling shows up at the house and tells him that the Teapot is already controlling him and Alice. He also says things will soon start to get worse, and it's better they let go of it as early as possible. John is scared of all the things Dr. Ling tells him, but he's not ready to give up the Teapot. Elsewhere, Alice realizes that the pain of others can also enrich them. She tells John about this, and they start going around to hospitals, boxing matches, and tattoo shops. After a day of going around, John tells Alice they need to go home, but she says she's not ready to leave, as she still feels energetic. As she talks about how great she has felt since she first touched the Teapot, she drives faster and almost hits someone crossing the road, but John stops her. He tells her it's time to return the Teapot because things are now getting out of hand. But Alice starts insulting him, saying he's a failure. Suddenly, she stops the car and gets out with the Teapot. A car almost hits her, and when she falls, she sees money in the Teapot. As they wonder where it came from because no one got hurt, Alice realizes emotional pain also counts. And while she was insulting John in the car, they made money. She insults him again by saying he's destined to fail, and the Teapot delivers more money. She then tells John they can take turns in breaking each other's hearts so that they can make some money. John disagrees with this, but Alice convinces him to do it. They keep insulting and saying hurtful things about each other, even when they get home. After a while, Alice says she had a relationship with Arnie before they got married. This breaks John's heart, and so much money starts coming out of the Teapot as he laments and gets angry. Despite Alice telling him not to do it, John drives to Arnie's trailer to pick a fight. When they get there, John sees Arnie's girlfriend, Brandy, and tells her about what happened. She doesn't take it too well and gets angry at Arnie. Due to this, Arnie gets pissed and knocks down John. Alice drops the bag with the Teapot to help John get back up, and in the process, Arnie decides to see what's inside. As he touches it, he feels a strange kind of energy and also sees some money inside. He starts wondering how it came about, but before he can do anything, Alice takes it back from him and they leave. The next day, Alice and John start thinking of new ways to make money, and they start breaking the hearts of married couples they know. They first go to Peyton's house, where they tell her husband, Ricky, about how Peyton killed his dog. John also tells Mrs. Tudor about Mr. Tudor's affair, and it breaks her heart and makes John some money. The next on the list is Mary, and while they're arranging their new safe, Alice tells John that Mary's first child is not for Joe, but he doesn't know. They head to Mary's house, but after seeing the sadness in Mary's eyes, Alice doesn't go through with it. When they return home, Alice says they need a big score, and they have to kill someone. John follows her to start digging a grave, but he changes his mind and tells Alice that they need to return the Teapot because things are now getting out of control. Alice disagrees and calls John a coward as he walks away. He goes to meet Dr. Ling to inform him of how bad things currently are. He then asks if Dr. Ling can come over and steal it from their house. Dr. Ling says the Teapot has to be given to him willingly by the person who has it. He then says he doesn't mind waiting until the Teapot kills them before he tries to get it again from whoever takes it next. That night, Alice returns from having a bath and sees John holding on to the Teapot as he sits next to the window. Alice begs him not to return it, saying she hasn't killed anyone yet. However, John says she'll kill someone if he doesn't do anything. Just then, he falls out of the window and lands badly on the ground. Alice immediately runs to see if he's okay, but she discovers he's unconscious. As she cries and hits him to wake up, promising that she'll return the Teapot, he wakes up. Alice says she means what she said about letting go of the Teapot, and they agree to do it in the morning. That night, they leave the Teapot in the living room while they go to bed to sleep. Unfortunately, Arnie breaks into their house to steal it, and they find out after he's gone. John and Alice are happy to finally have the Teapot off their hands. They start thinking of what to do with all that they have and if they should give it away. Suddenly, John has a rethink and says they need to get back the Teapot and return it themselves. He says they're good people and their priority should be getting the Teapot back to Dr. Ling instead of letting it harm someone else. The next morning, they head over to Arnie's trailer, and when no one answers the door, they go in only to see dollar bills and some blood on the floor. Immediately, they realize that Arnie has started harming himself, and he must have taken it to an extreme level because of how greedy he is. Shortly after, Arnie shows up looking bruised and with a gun. He says he's going to kill them so he can make a lot of money. John tells him to return the teapot because it's dangerous, but Arnie disagrees. Before Arnie can shoot, John bats the gun off his hand and they start fighting. Brandy soon comes in with the teapot and a gun, asking what's happening. Arnie takes the gun from her, but before he tries to kill them again, Yoel and Gilad arrive at the house to ask for the teapot. Arnie and Brandy say they're not giving it up and the brothers threaten to kill them. Things soon escalate and Arnie is shot. Before things get worse, Alice and John immediately hide behind a chair. Gunshots start flying around until everywhere suddenly becomes quiet. Alice and John come out of hiding to see everyone else in the room already dead, with a lot of money lying around. They pack up the money and take the teapot to meet Dr. Ling, who is waiting outside the house. They hand it over to him, and he thanks them for letting go of it. Days later, Alice and John send a huge amount of money to their friends Chuck and Louise. They also head out of town to start fresh in a new place. Alice is also pregnant, and John looks happy as he drives. Meanwhile, Dr. Ling throws the teapot into the middle of the ocean as he heads back to China. Thanks for tuning in. A thumbs up would be amazing because I've got some bills to pay.
Back in my bag and I gotta brag, I do this shit for real. When we was down and we had nothing, we had to share a meal. We put the shit in overdrive with no steering wheel.